The Troll Ride by Anna Wahlenberg, with illustration by John Bauer. Read by Robin Hearn. Pedalars rode along the highway, his heart singing. He was bound for the city to buy a new jacket, because that evening he was going a-courting and wanted to look his best. He felt rather sure that the rich and proud Lisa would not turn him down. Although Pedalars was the poorest of all her admirers, she always looked at him kindly, and she had agreed that he and his father might come to visit her at 6 o'clock. Pedalars rode across fields and into a long, deep forest. Then he emerged into a green meadow. Suddenly he saw something moving in a ditch. He drew nearer and realized it was a strange-looking woman crawling along. She lifted her head and stared at him. He had never before seen anything as evil-looking as her face. Her small peppercorn eyes were almost hidden in matted hair. Her nose looked like a carrot, and her lips were dry as bread crust. "Will you do me a good turn?" she asked. "I shall reward you for your trouble." "What is it?" asked Pedalars. The woman said that she had heard a leg wandering in the forest, and had limped this far because in the next wood, near a path that climbed a hill, there grew 7 pine trees. A little resin from each of these pine trees, rubbed into her wound, would make the pain go away immediately. But before she got very far, she had collapsed and so was lying here helpless in the ditch. She badly needed someone to collect resin from the wood for her. She would see that he was well rewarded for his trouble. Already 5 people had accepted a gold coin for saying they would help, but they had probably taken the money and found another road home because she had not seen any of them again. Pedalars stepped back. "How do you come to have so many gold coins? Who are you?" The woman moaned and rubbed her leg. "Oh, how it hurts! And me mother is walking in the forest looking for me and calling me. Oh, listen, can you hear her?" "No, I don't hear anything," said Pedalars. Suddenly the woman grabbed the mane of his horse, pulled herself up, and put a hand like a trumpet to his ear. Now he heard someone singing in the deep forest. "Where are you, daughter, sweet and fair? I'm looking for you everywhere." Pedalars could not help laughing, because he did not think that sweet and fair really suited the woman by his side. The woman sank back down into the ditch, but she peered over the edge, and her small peppercorn eyes shot fiery glances. "You laughed like all the West, ain't me?" she hissed. "But I will give you money, as much money as you want, if only you will get me that pine resin." She rattled the gold coins in her fist. Pedalars stared at her. Then he knocked a hand so that all the gold coins fell into the ditch. "No, thank you," he said. "You are a troll, and I don't want to have anything to do with a troll." And he cracked his whip and continued his journey. He rode into the city, bought himself a smart jacket, and turned homewards again. Yet when he came to the hill the woman had mentioned, he could not help looking around for the 7 pine trees. There they stood in a row, murmuring softly. At that moment he heard someone singing far, far away. "Where are you, daughter, sweet and fair? I'm looking for you everywhere." He quickly checked the pine trunk for resin. but it was hard to find any now that the afternoon light was fading. No, I must hurry, he thought, or I'll reach Lisa late, and that might cost me dearly. And so he rode on. He had gone only a little farther when his horse stopped by itself and pricked up its ears, listening. Once again he heard the song. Where are you, daughter, sweet and fair? I'm looking for you everywhere. If only I had time to gather some of that resin, he thought, and turned round. But after a minute he changed his mind. It's madness, he said to himself. What do I care about an ugly old troll woman? And so he turned homewards again. It did not take long before the horse stopped again, and once more he heard the song. Where are you, daughter, sweet and fair? I'm looking for you everywhere. I can't bear it, thought Pedalars. If I don't get the resin, I'm afraid I will never stop hearing that song. And so he galloped back to the pine trees. He examined the trunks and branches, and at last he gathered resin from each of the 7 trees. By now it was almost dark, so he galloped along the road. He came to the ditch and saw the troll woman still sitting there. Here you are, you old hag, he shouted, throwing the resin into her lap, and I hope I never see you again, for you have probably cost me my sweetheart's hand in marriage. He spurred his horse on without waiting to hear whether or not the woman would thank him. He was angry and anxious, sure that he would be too late. What would Lisa's father say? Pedalars knew he was not happy about the prospect of having a pauper for a son-in-law. Pedder's lateness would give him an excuse to refuse his daughter's hand. And Lisa herself? Her pride might be hurt. Suddenly he heard hooves ahead, and from around a bend in the road his brother approached him on horseback. He looked a sight, and his horse was all in a lather. You'll be late, his brother called. And as the two of them galloped on together, he told Pedalars that their old father had been waiting by Lisa's farm gate for Pedalars to come, when suddenly the rich miller Jonas, who owned half the village, had pulled up in his carriage. He too was going to ask for the beautiful Lisa's hand. If Pedalars was turned down, he said, then he was ready to take his place. And so there Jonas sat now waiting. It was now 6:15, and they had several miles to go. Goodbye, Pedalars called, urging his horse to the utmost and streaking along the forest path at breakneck speed. It was so dark that he could hardly see the road before him. Branches tore at his handsome new jacket and scratched his forehead until it bled, but he paid no attention. All Pedalars could think was that the beautiful Lisa might give her hand to the rich miller Jonas to punish him for being late. So that's what I get for having anything to do with trolls, he thought. Soon his horse began to pant and stumble and trip, and Pedalars was afraid it might collapse under him. The horse went slower and slower, no matter how he urged it forward. Then he felt the reins go taut in his hands. The horse lifted its head, and its hooves began to fly over the ground, so fast that Pedalars' cape billowed behind. He felt sure that someone was sitting behind him on the horse's back. He turned around, and although no one was there, he imagined he saw what looked like a grey bundle slip down over the horse's rump. The ride became wilder and wilder as the horse no longer followed the road but turned in among bushes and undergrowth. It jumped hillocks and streams, and Pedalars no longer felt in control of the reins. Every time he cast a look behind, he dimly glimpsed a grey bundle sliding further back on the horse, and every time he looked ahead he felt more and more sure that someone was sitting behind him. Pedalars' cape was flying straight up over his head, stretched as trim as a sail. The horse flew like a bird, and its hooves barely touched ground. They reached the road again and met his old father, who shook his head sadly. You will never get there. You have only a minute left. We'll see, Pedalars called, and disappeared so fast that the old man did not even see him go. At the farmer's house, everyone was waiting. Beautiful Lisa, her arm leaning on the windowsill, was listening for the beat of hooves, while her father and Jonas the miller rubbed their hands contentedly. "Now," said her father, looking at the clock on the wall, "there is only half a minute to go. If he were going to come on time, we would have had his horse on the bridge by now. Lisa, you may as well give the miller your hand right away, for you will never be satisfied with a suitor who keeps you waiting." I will wait until 6 o'clock, Lisa said, her heart beating fast, though her father was right, and she was so proud that she would rather make herself unhappy for the rest of her life than be kept waiting a single second by a suitor. It would be desperately hard to lose Pedalars. The clock began to chime. "Too late!" cried the miller. Then they heard the strong beat of hooves on the bridge, and Lisa's eyes shone with joy. "Listen, he is coming," she explained. "Too late," said the father. But just as the clock was ready to chime for the 6th time, the door was flung open, and there stood Pedalars, dripping wet, his hair tousled, and his new jacket dusty and torn. Yet he looked jaunty and dashing all the same. Lisa ran to him and put her hand in his so firmly and confidently that Pedalars knew she was giving it to him for life. The miller and the farmer could only gape. They could not understand how Pedalars had managed to arrive on time, and no one else understood either. But this was not the last time people would marvel at Pedalars. From then on, regardless of how late he sat out on any journey, he would always arrive on time. Whether he rode on horseback or in a carriage, he was calm and assured. And he could well afford to be, for he always felt he had someone with him, someone who made sure that all his adventures always finished well. But who this was he never could discover, no matter how many times he turned his head and thought he glimpsed a grey bundle slip down the rump of his horse or off the edge of his carriage. Yet inside himself Pedalars knew who it was that sat behind him. He had not asked for any reward for the favour he had done for the troll in the ditch, but a reward he certainly did receive. Thank you.